Hi, boys and girls. We're getting ready to finish up our book Wonder today, and we are going to be reading 4 short chapters just to finish it out. We left off last time. The family was getting ready to go to graduation, and we read the chapter called A Simple Thing, and we were just in the middle of Mr. Tushman's speech. He had just mentioned what he thought about kindness, and I thought it was a really good speech, and you all gave me so many wonderful thoughts about how you have grown in kindness this year, so thank you for sharing them with me. Today we're going to continue reading, and the next chapter is called Awards. I liked Mr. Tushman's speech, but I have to admit, I kind of zoned out a little during some of the other speeches. I tuned in again as Ms. Rubin started reading off the names of the kids who had made the high honor roll, because we were supposed to stand up when our names were called. So I waited and listened for my name as she went down the list alphabetically. Reed Kingsley, Maya Markowitz, August Pullman. I stood up. Then, when she finished reading off the names, she asked all of us to face the audience and take a bow, and everyone applauded. I had no idea where in that huge crowd my parents might be sitting. All I could see were the flashes of light from people taking photos and parents waving at their kids. I pictured Mom waving at me from somewhere, even though I couldn't see her. Then Mr. Tushman came back to the podium to present the medals for academic excellence. And Jack was right. Jimena Chin won the gold medal for overall academic excellence in the 5th grade. Charlotte won the silver. Charlotte also won a gold medal for music. Amos won the medal for overall excellence in sports, which I was really happy about because ever since the nature retreat, I considered Amos to be like one of my best friends in school. But I was really, really thrilled when Mr. Tushman called out Summer's name for the gold medal in creative writing. I saw Summer put her hand over her mouth when her name was called. And when she walked up onto the stage, I yelled, "Woohoo, Summer!" as loudly as I could, though I don't think she could hear me. After the last name was called, all the kids who had just won awards stood next to each other on stage. And Mr. Tushman said to the audience, "Ladies and gentlemen, I am very honored to present to you this year's Beecher's Prep School's Scholastic Achievers. Congratulations to all of you." I applauded as the kids on stage bowed. I'm so happy for Summer. "The final award this morning," said Mr. Tushman, after the kids on stage had returned to their seats, "is the Henry Ward Beecher Medal of Honor to honor students who have been notable or exemplary in certain areas throughout the school year. Typically, this medal has been our way of acknowledging volunteerism or service to our school. I immediately figured Charlotte would get this medal because she organized the coat drive this year, so I kind of zoned out again for a bit. I looked at my watch, 10:56. I was getting hungry for lunch already. Henry Ward Beecher was, of course, the 19th century abolitionist and fiery sermonizer for human rights, after whom this school was named," Mr. Tushman was saying when I started paying attention again. While reading up on his life in preparation for this award, I came upon a passage that he wrote that seemed particularly consistent with the themes I touched on earlier, themes I had been ruminating upon all year long. Not just the nature of kindness, but the nature of one's kindness, the power of one's friendship, the test of one's character, the strength of one's courage. And here, the weirdest thing happened. Mr. Tushman's voice cracked a bit, like he got all choked up or something. He actually cleared his throat and took a big sip of water. I started paying attention, for real now, to what he was saying. "The strength of one's courage," he repeated quietly, nodding and smiling. He held up his right hand like he was counting off. Courage, kindness, friendship, character. These are the qualities that define us as human beings and propel us on occasion to greatness. And this is what the Henry Ward Beecher Medal is about, recognizing greatness. But how do we do that? How do we measure something like greatness? Again, there's no yardstick for that kind of thing. How do we even define it? Well, Beecher actually had an answer for that. He put his reading glasses on again, leafed through a book, and started to read. Greatness, wrote Beecher, lies not in being strong, but in the right using of strength. He is the greatest those strength carries up the most hearts. And again, out of the blue, he got all choked up. He put his 2 index fingers over his mouth for a second before continuing. He is the greatest, he finally continued, whose strength carries up the most hearts by the attraction of his own. Without further ado, this year I'm very proud to award the Henry Ward Beecher Medal to the student whose quiet strength has carried up the most hearts. So will August Pullman please come up here to receive this award? The next chapter is called Floating. People started applauding before Mr. Tushman's words actually registered to my brain. I heard Maya, who was next to me, give a happy little scream when she heard my name, and Miles, who was on the other side of me, patted my back. "Stand up! Get up!" said kids all around me. And I felt lots of hands pushing me upward out of my seat, guiding me to the edge of the row, patting my back, high-fiving me. "Way to go, Augie! Nice going, Augie!" I even started hearing my name being chanted, "Augie, Augie, Augie." I looked back and saw Jack leading the chant, fist in the air, smiling and signaling for me to keep going, and Amos shouting through his hands, "Woohoo, little dude!" Then I saw Summer smiling as I walked past her row. And when she saw me look at her, she gave me a secret little thumbs up and mouthed a silent, "Cool beans" to me. I laughed and shook my head like I couldn't believe it. I really couldn't believe it. I think I was smiling. Maybe I was beaming. I don't know. As I walked up the aisle toward the stage, all I saw was a blur of happy, bright faces looking at me, and hands clapping for me. And I heard people yelling things out at me. "You deserve it, Augie! Good for you, Augie!" I saw all of my teachers in the aisle seats, Mr. Brown, Miss Petosa, Mr. Roach, and Miss Antonabi, and Nurse Molly, and all the others. And they were cheering for me, woohooing and whistling. I felt like I was floating. It was so weird. Like the sun was shining full force on my face and the wind was blowing. As I got closer to the stage, I saw Ms. Rubin waving at me in the front row. And then next to her was Mrs. G, who was crying hysterically. A happy crying, smiling and clapping the whole time. And as I walked up the steps to the stage, the most amazing thing happened. Everyone started standing up. Not just the front rows, but the whole audience suddenly got up to their feet, whooping, hollering, clapping like crazy. It was a standing ovation for me. I walked across the stage to Mr. Tushman, who shook my hand with both of his hands and whispered in my ear, "Well done, Augie." Then he placed the gold medal over my head, just like they do in the Olympics, and had me turn to face the audience. It felt like I was watching myself in a movie almost, like I was someone else. It was like that last scene in Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope, when Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, and Chewbacca are being applauded for destroying the Death Star. I could almost hear the Star Wars theme music playing in my head as I stood on stage. I wasn't even sure why I was getting this medal, really. No, that's not true. I knew why. It's like people you see sometimes and you can't imagine what it would be like to be that person, whether it's somebody in a wheelchair or somebody who can't talk. Only I know that I'm that person to other people, and maybe to every single person in that whole auditorium. To me, though, it's just me, an ordinary kid. But hey, if they want to give me a medal for being that, that's okay. I'll take it. I didn't destroy a Death Star or anything, but I did just get through the 5th grade. And that's not easy, even if you're not me. The next chapter is called Pictures. Afterward, there was a reception for the 5th and 6th graders under a huge white tent in the back of the school. All of the kids found their parents, and I didn't mind at all when Mom and Dad hugged me like crazy, or when Via wrapped her arms around me and swung me left and right about 20 times. Then Papa and Tata hugged me. And Aunt Kate and Uncle Po and Uncle Ben, everyone kind of teary-eyed and wet-cheeked, like me. But Miranda was the funniest. She was crying more than anyone and squeezed me so tight that Via had to practically pry her off of me, which made them both laugh. Everyone started taking pictures of me and pulling out their flips, and then Dad got me, Summer, and Jack together for a group shot. We put our arms around each other's shoulders, and for the first time I can remember, I wasn't even thinking about my face. I was just smiling, a big, fat, happy smile for all the different cameras clicking away at me. Flash, flash, click, click, smiling away as Jack's parents and Summer's mom started clicking. Then Reed and Maya came over. Flash, flash, click, click. And then Charlotte came over and asked if she could take a picture with us. And we were like, sure, of course. And then Charlotte's parents were snapping away at our little group along with everyone else's parents. And the next thing I knew, the 2 Maxes had come over, and Henry and Miles and Savannah. Then Amos came over and Jimena. And we were all in this big, tight huddle as parents clicked away, like we were on a red carpet somewhere. Luca, Isaiah, Nino, Pablo, Tristan, Ellie. I lost track of who else came over. Everybody, practically. All I knew for sure is that we were all laughing and squeezing and tight against each other. And no one seemed to care if it was my face that was next to theirs or not. In fact, and I don't mean to brag here, but it kind of felt like everyone wanted to get close to me. This is the last chapter, the walk home. We walked to our house for cake and ice cream after the reception. Jack and his parents and his little brother Jamie, Summer and her mother, Uncle Po and Aunt Kate, Uncle Ben, Tata and Papa, Justin and Via and Miranda, Mom and Dad. It was one of those great June days when the sky is completely blue and the sun is shining, but it isn't so hot that you wish you were on a beach instead. It was just the perfect day. Everyone was happy. I still felt like I was floating. The Star Wars hero music in my head. I walked with Summer and Jack, and we just couldn't stop cracking up. Everything made us laugh. We were in that giggly kind of mood where all someone has to do is look at you and you start laughing. I heard Dad's voice up ahead and looking up. He was telling everyone a funny story as they walked down Amesfort Avenue. The grown-ups were all laughing too. It was like Mom always said, Dad could be a comedian. I noticed Mom wasn't walking with the group of grown-ups, so I looked behind me. She was hanging back a bit, smiling to herself like she was thinking of something sweet. She seemed happy. I took a few steps back and surprised her by hugging her as she walked. She put her arm around me and gave me a squeeze. "Thank you for making me go to school," I said quietly. She hugged me close and leaned down and kissed the top of my head. "Thank you, Augie," she answered softly. "For what?" "For everything you've given us," she said. "For coming into our lives. For being you." She bent down and whispered in my ear, "You really are a wonder, Augie. You are a wonder." That's the end. No need for bookmarks now. Such a good story. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you stuck with it all of these weeks. I hope you got a chance to hear the whole book. I had wished that we would have finished this, of course, in person. You could have seen my real tears anyway. But this is certainly a book that marks kindness and shows how important it is to not judge people by the way they look on the outside, but to judge them by the content of their character. And that's a lesson we can all learn and take with us into the future. Boys and girls, you're welcome to tell me anything that you thought about the ending of our book. I won't ask any specific questions because this is the end. And I'm sure you have lots of thoughts. Thoughts about Augie, thoughts about Jack, thoughts about the family. What about the standing ovation? That was pretty cool. Later on in the book, it does outline all of the different precepts. And as I mentioned to you, you will be getting postcards from Mrs. Schott and I. For me, I'm hoping that maybe you'll tell me your precept. All of the precepts are listed in the back here: September, October, November, December. The last one was one that we just talked about: just follow the day and reach for the sun. Then there are other precepts that were given by students through the summer. Charlotte's precept was, it's not enough to be friendly, you have to be a friend. And that was just her idea. I thought you might like to hear Augie's precept. This is the one he wrote to Mr. Brown over the summer. Augie Pullman's precept: everyone in the world should get a standing ovation at least once in their life, because we all overcometh the world. Augie. So that's a precept that he thinks people should live by. What's one that you think people should live by? You can write it to me in the comments or save it for your summer postcard. Boys and girls, it's been my honor and my joy to read this story to you, and we'll read together maybe one more time. I think I have a little reading left in me for the last day of school. It'll be a different book, though. Have a great day, boys and girls. Dream big, work hard, and you know the rest. Be kind.